Your insiders, Chris Johnston, Pierre Lebrun, and Darren Dreger. In a normal year, which this is certainly not, a handful of KHL players would always sign in the offseason and come over and join the National Hockey League. What happens now, Dregs, with the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the world being upside down?
Well, there isn't a firm answer yet. It's a developing story. I can tell you that the National Hockey League and NHL clubs are closely monitoring the war activity involving Russia. But what if Russia closes its borders? What if the Canada, United States federal governments stop work visas for the Russian players hoping to come over and make their way in the National Hockey League? It could get very problematic for a top unrestricted free agent prospect like Andrei Kuzmenko. Now, Kuzmenko is trying to stick to a plan. He was hoping to play for his country in China at the Olympics. That didn't pan out for him. He was hoping to be part of the Russian national team at the Men's Worlds in Finland. Well, they're banned, so he's not going to play there. Right now, he's focused on the playoffs in the Continental Hockey League, and he isn't going to make his NHL decision until the end of the NHL season. But again, politically, he might get trumped in making that decision.
This is much more normal as we approach the deadline, assistant general managers scouting other teams. So what do we make, Pierre, of Leafs assistant GM Lawrence Gilman watching the Vancouver Canucks very closely? The JT Miller rumors will certainly start.
What do we make of it, James? Let's make something of it. Well, you know, he was there for back-to-back games. He was spotted Sunday at MSG to watch Rangers Canucks and Monday in New Jersey to watch Devils Canucks. And yes, we're told that he was there largely to watch JT Miller among a few other players. And of course, that's not surprising. The Leafs have been linked to Miller before here. But, you know, the Leafs are among several teams that have kicked tires with Vancouver on him. I don't think there's anything too serious at this point. But the Leafs doing their due diligence. Now, here's the thing. When I talk to other teams around the league, and I think that Chris and Dregs are getting the same feel, you know, what I get is Vancouver's really not that into the idea of trading JT Miller, that a team is really going to have to step up to get the engine of the Vancouver Canucks out of that roster. But there's certainly answering calls. We'll see where it goes.
Well, Pierre, the asking price is believed to be at least slightly more modest when it comes to Vancouver Canucks forwards Brock Besser and Connor Garland. And perhaps that is a reason they may be more likely, one or both of them, to be moved at the deadline rather than Miller. And I can tell you there are NHL teams that have been in contact with Vancouver over that. At this point, the Canucks are still kind of on the fringes of playoff positioning, although getting closer, I think, to making some decisions. And as we look to what those potential trades might look like, I believe that they're looking for some players, not just future assets like draft picks.
You know, a bit of a surprise. Only a handful of clubs have actually called the Vancouver Canucks on JT Miller, and that might be because they know that Vancouver's preference is to likely hold on to the player for now. He's got another year remaining on his contract. The New York Rangers would like to get their hands once again on JT Miller. JT Miller is a target of theirs, as is Rickard Rakell of the Anaheim Ducks. But the New York Rangers, given an opportunity here, Chris Drury would also like to bolster his blue line. So among the many suitors in on Ben Sherratt of the Montreal Canadiens with 3 weeks looming.
Dregs, you reported on Tuesday on this segment that Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane, there will be conversations with their futures in Chicago with the Hawks having a rebuild. They're delicate conversations, Pierre. How do they work?
Yeah, so I like what it sounds like Kyle Davidson did, according to a few sources this week. Before Kyle Davidson went out and had his news conference where he was made the full-time GM, he got Toews and Kane, as well as Seth Jones and Marc-Andre Fleury into a room. He assembled the four of them, and he explained to them that he was about to go out and tell the world that he's embarking on a full rebuild for the Chicago Blackhawks. I think those four guys really appreciated the communication there, the honesty, the transparency. But what it means for those guys here remains to be seen. And Patrick Kane is obviously the most interesting player in terms of what he could bring to another team. But my sense right now is I don't think the Blackhawks think that he's at play here before the March 21st trade deadline. For one, Kane may not want to leave Chicago before the end of his deal in a year and a half. But even if he does, that's more of a summer conversation, especially considering his $10.5 million cap hit.
So it won't help us for Trade Center, but could make for a really interesting offseason in Chicago.